Ambassador Vel Thrane's four eyes blinked in sequence as he adjusted his ceremonial robes, the violet fabric catching the harsh light of the war-torn planet's sun. The Krevtar homeworld had seen better days. Craters pockmarked the landing zone and the acrid smell of plasma fire still lingered in the air. This was supposed to be a simple mediation mission between the Krevtar Dominion and the Salian Collective, two species who had been at each other's throats for the better part of a decade. Major Holt, please remain 3 paces behind me during the negotiations, Vel said, his translator converting his native clicks and whistles into standard galactic common. The Krevtar are a proud people. They may view your presence as provocative. Major Kara Holt stood beside the shuttle ramp, her muscular frame relaxed but ready. She wore standard Terran military fatigues. Nothing fancy, no power armor, just reinforced combat gear and a sidearm holstered at her hip. Her dark eyes scanned the perimeter with the practiced efficiency of someone who had seen too many ambushes to ever be caught off guard again. Understood. Ambassador, she replied, her voice flat and professional. I'm just here to make sure you get home in one piece. Vel had argued against bringing a human bodyguard. The Galactic Council had insisted. After humanity's recent admission to the broader galactic community, their reputation had preceded them. Vel thought it was all exaggeration. Primitive species often got myths built around them. How dangerous could one human really be? The negotiation site was a bombed-out government building at the center of what used to be the Krevtar capital. Inside, 2 delegations sat on opposite sides of a long table, surrounded by their respective honor guards. The Krevtar were massive, bear-like creatures with chitinous plates covering their shoulders and backs. The Xalians were serpentine, their scaled bodies coiled elegantly as they regarded their enemies with cold, calculating eyes. Vel took his seat at the head of the table. Major Holt positioned herself exactly 3 paces behind him, hands clasped in front of her, utterly still. Honorable representatives, Vel began, spreading his forearms in a gesture of peace. The Galactic Council has sent me to broker an end to this senseless conflict. Surely we can— Senseless. War Chief Graktar slammed one massive paw on the table, the impact cracking the surface. They attacked our colony worlds, slaughtered our young. Lies. High Chancellor Sivara hissed, her hood flaring. You fired first. Your aggression forced our retaliation. The room erupted. Shouting filled the space as both sides leapt to their feet, honor guards reaching for weapons. Vel's heart sank. This was going exactly as he'd feared. Then Major Holt moved. She didn't draw her weapon. She didn't shout. She simply took 1 step forward, just one, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Every warrior in that room, battle-hardened veterans who had seen horrors beyond imagination, froze. It wasn't her size. She was actually smaller than most species present. It wasn't her equipment, laughably primitive by galactic standards. It was something else, something primal. Graktar, who had personally led charges against fortified positions, felt his combat instincts screaming at him. His species had evolved as apex predators on a world where everything wanted to kill them. Those instincts had kept his ancestors alive for millions of years. And right now, every single one of those instincts was telling him, predator. Asvara's species could sense electromagnetic fields, could detect the faintest bioelectric signals of potential prey or threats. The human's bioelectric signature was wrong, not stronger, denser, like staring at a coiled spring, or a landmine that hadn't detonated yet, pure potential violence. Major Holt's eyes swept across the room, making brief contact with each warrior present. She didn't need to say anything. Her expression conveyed everything. I am politely asking you to sit down. Please do not make me ask impolitely. One by one, the warriors lowered their weapons. One by one, they sat. Graktar found himself back in his chair without remembering the decision to sit. His combat computer, a military-grade implant that had served him through 30 years of warfare, was flashing warnings he'd never seen before. Threat assessment protocols were cycling through options and rejecting all of them. It couldn't classify the human, couldn't predict her capabilities. The uncertainty alone was terrifying. Perhaps, Vel said carefully, his voice somehow steady despite his own racing hearts, we could discuss this calmly. For the next 2 hours, the negotiations proceeded with remarkable civility. Whenever tensions began to rise, whenever someone's hand drifted toward a weapon, All it took was the slightest shift in Major Holt's weight, not even a full movement, just a microscopic adjustment of balance, and everyone remembered their manners. Vel, to his credit, was an excellent diplomat. With the room actually listening instead of posturing, he wove together a framework for peace that addressed both sides' grievances. Territorial disputes were mediated. Reparations were calculated. Prisoner exchanges were arranged. The war that had consumed two civilizations for a decade was dismantled piece by piece. When Graktar and Asvara finally signed the ceasefire agreement, their honor guards, warriors who had killed hundreds, kept glancing nervously at the human standing motionless behind the ambassador. As Vel and Major Holt walked back to the shuttle, the ambassador's legs felt weak. "Major," he said quietly, "what exactly did you do in there?" Kara Holt allowed herself the smallest smile. "My job, sir. I kept you safe, but you didn't draw your weapon. You barely moved, didn't need to." She climbed the shuttle ramp. "Humans spent 300,000 years as persistence hunters on a death world, Ambassador. We chased our prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. We invented dozens of ways to kill things bigger and stronger than us. War is in our blood, not because we're monsters, but because we're survivors." She paused at the top of the ramp, looking back at the negotiation building. Every warrior in that room knew it. They could smell it on me, and they decided correctly that whatever grievances they had with each other weren't worth finding out what I was capable of. Vel settled into his seat as the shuttle lifted off. He would have to file his report with the council. They would ask how the negotiations went so smoothly, how he managed to end a decade-long war in a single afternoon. He looked at Major Holt, who had already closed her eyes, apparently taking a nap as if she hadn't just terrified 24 hardened combat veterans into submission without saying a word. The council had been right to insist on a human bodyguard, not because they expected violence, because they knew everyone else would.